What's on your mind? Don't ever stop. Don't ever stop. What do you think?
Oh, that's right. What do you think this morning? I'm always interested in what you think. I think, as I was saying earlier, it was lovely to have some nice cooler weather. It really made you feel, at least it made me feel, a little energized. And Penny has no problem being energized all the time. That's what she is just wide open all the time. And I guess I'm glad of it. I mean, I couldn't stand a lay-around dog. I just couldn't. I like excitement and thrills and chills and all this other stuff. So, we got a lot to talk about. Israel, Netanyahu, and his cabinet voted to proceed with their direction on taking this over. I find it interesting. That they will give it back. This is what Netanyahu said. I'm not sure that's the answer. I'm not, of course, qualified in any way, shape, or form to discuss it. So I won't. I just wanted to make mention of it. So it looks like that's the direction they have chosen to go, at least at this moment. On the other side of the warring zone, we have Putin and, don't you love that? Putin and President Trump meeting in Alaska on Friday, unless it's changed overnight. I mean, that's the last thing I heard. They are going to be meeting on Friday in Alaska. Interesting choice of a place to meet, don't you think? But since the war zone and everything is on the complete opposite, near Europe, I think, why did they meet in Europe somewhere? Why Alaska? I don't know the answer to that. If you do, you can let me know. 864-229-7984. That's 864-229-7984. You know, I think the big question is anything going to come out on it? And of course, people are saying that Trump is a great negotiator, and I'm sure it will get worked out. Well, I certainly hope so. I hope that Putin is not just pulling Trump's leg for another 3 months or 6 months or whatever. I think it's also interesting what type of a deal, if any, at this initial meeting will be proposed. How much is Ukraine going to have to give up to get the war to stop? That is, I think, the real question. But I just wanted to mention that one because I think that one is important to watch what's coming up on Friday. And, of course, the anticipation will be all week long on the news networks, how this is going to work out. So that's that as far as that. That's really all I have to say about that. However, this Donald Trump and Washington, D.C., this is a most interesting story and goes to what else is going to be happening. So, U.S. military preparing to surge National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. to fight local crime and youth violence. That's what's being reported. So, the U.S. military is preparing to activate hundreds of National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. as part of President Trump's sweeping federal crackdown. This is from the New York Post. Trump has yet to make a final decision about the activation of federal troops, but the National Guard is readying to deploy them. And the preparation comes as 120 FBI agents from across the country have already begun patrolling D.C. streets overnight and backing up area cops at carjacking hotspots despite many lacking local patrol work training. So that's what's happening in Washington, D.C. Trump wrote on a post on Sunday on Truth Social, "Be prepared, there will be no Mr. Nice Guy." And he's going to have a press conference this morning about the city cleanliness and general condition. Um, this is a big deal. This is a big deal because you know while the capital is in Washington D.C. I'm not sure they actually have I mean, I know that they can come in and do this, but it is a big deal about how it's going to be done. You may remember that he said that he was going to move out the homeless. The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong, Trump wrote in a social media post comparing the action to his illegal immigration crackdown at the border. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, is a good person who has tried, but she has been given many chances, and the crime numbers get worse, and the city gets only dirtier and less attractive, Trump said in a different post on Sunday. Bowser has since fought back on Trump's characterization of the city. If the priority is to show force in an American city, we know he can do that here, Bowser said on MSNBC Sunday morning, but it won't be because there's a spike in crime. Violent crime is down 26% compared with this time in 2024, according to D.C. police data, and there have been roughly 20% fewer juvenile arrests this year, the Washington Post revealed. So, what do you think? You know, I haven't been to the Capitol in since before Biden got elected. So I haven't really seen it firsthand. The White House said, though, they're not backing down, noting the city has been plagued by petty and violent crime for far too long. They've got all kinds of problems going on up there. Is it as bad? I don't know. I just don't know. One thing is for sure, though, that I do feel, as President Trump has been talking about moving the homeless people out, whether it's Washington, D.C., across our country, I think one of the things that needs to be done, we need to, as they do right over there at Pathway House, get to the root cause of homelessness. And why are these people homeless? Why are these people homeless? Is it trauma that is induced? What are the issues? In Greenwood, South Carolina, most all the people that we have that are homeless is because of some type of trauma. Now, that doesn't mean to say that some have other issues, but a lot of it is trauma. And all of a sudden, this trauma something may trigger it. It may come back out. So, in his effort to clean up Washington, D.C., number one, I hope that they're not just going to house people that are homeless, just to house them in tough sheds, this type of thing. They've had some, I'm going to use the word success in air quotes, down there in Texas, where they have moved them outside of, Austin, I think. There's a huge encampment, and they're in like little sheds that you'd use in your backyard. And the federal government is paying a person to do this, and it has cleaned up the streets, but it hasn't solved the problem. And that's what I wanted to discuss, solving the problem, because we need these people to get back on their feet. Right here at Pathway House, they're having huge successes, and they don't take any federal money to do it. So in an effort to do this, I hope the federal government will think there's actually has to be a 2 or 3 prongs to it. There are those that need to be medicated and need structure, and maybe some of those need to be, I'll use the word institutionalized. But there are many that just need a hand up to not get just money, but to get their mental issues under control. And by under control, I don't mean just medication. I mean getting to the root cause of the trauma that caused this. Because if you do not get through the root cause of trauma, all you do is have history repeating. It's a gigantic task. And I think that while one can go ahead and get people off the streets, and you can go with not martial law, but just have a lot of law enforcement on the streets of Washington, D.C., if you don't dig below or pull up the covers and look below and see what's really the problem, you may not really solve the problem. You may make it look good, but you may not solve the problem. So I just wanted to say, I hope when they do this that they'll take more than just moving the homeless out of Washington, D.C., and you don't just put them somewhere else, i.e. like sheds, tough sheds, or some type of sheds that are just places for people to be. I hope that we actually begin to address it. You know, back in the, 1960s, when they started tearing down or closing down the mental institutions like Bull Street and places like that, they were supposed to have community centers where people were able to get the help that they needed. They could be monitored and this type of thing. Well, a lot of that never actually happened. And I think that is a shame. I would hope that President Trump might revisit how we can make some of this happen, how we can get people, not just the drugs, but get real counseling to help them. All right, I'm off my soapbox. I just thought I'd mention that because it really bothers me to think that we might just house them but not become the issues. And after all, we need people able to work. We need people to be self-sustaining. And so this is part of the issue. As far as the crime and the young people, that is something that I hope that they can get under control and make a difference. After all, it is our capital. There are people coming in there all the time. But it's not just our capital. There are plenty of cities around this country that you would have wanted to go to, and now maybe you don't want to go. I mean, look at what's happening in New York City. Do you want to go to New York City? Yeah. Do you want to go to New York City? I don't know. All right, so that's a little bit on Trump taking on Washington, D.C. I think it's... when people, just look at what happened with Big Balls. I love saying this. That worked at Doge and was with a woman near downtown D.C. when he saw a group of juveniles approach their car and make a comment about taking the vehicle. And just stuff like this. Is just frightening. And then he got beat up. Trump and former boss Elon Musk shared a photograph of the aftermath of the assault on him early Tuesday afternoon, showing the former Doge staffer sitting on the ground, bloodied with his ripped shirt barely hanging on his body. Critics and residents have fired back at Trump's sweeping crackdown and removal of the homeless as inhumane. That money could be better spent on getting housing and support. This is the problem. All we do is house. We need to get to the root cause of this issue and not just put them in encampments. It's not clear exactly what federal troops would do, but they could be deployed to protect federal agents or even carry out administrative tasks to free up law enforcement. So that's a little bit about what's upcoming this week. We'll see how the Trump administration handles that. What exactly is their plan? I believe they're having a news conference about that. All right, moving on this morning. Trump meeting with Putin Friday, this coming Friday. That should be very interesting. I think, will Putin be trying to play Trump? As most everybody has said, Trump is the supremo negotiator. They think it's great that he's sitting down to actually talk to Putin and see if something can be made to happen. Of course, from Zelensky's point of view, all he's worried about is what is Trump going to give up that's theirs to get Putin to stop. At this point, you know, Trump has had an amazing success in bringing about ends to conflicts that have gone on for years. Let's only hope and pray that he can end this one and end the killing. Whew, those are some of the things that are out there. What do you think about redistricting in South Carolina? What do you think about that? That's Ralph Norman, who is a candidate for governor here in South Carolina, suggested that this is something that should be done. What do you think about it? Do you think that we should be doing this? You know, other states are, and of course this is what's happening in Texas. So should we be doing that? I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's an interesting idea that they want to take district, I don't remember what the district number is, but they want to take this district and redistricting it so it would be a Republican district. I found that most interesting. I was trying to find my article on it. I had an article on it. But I thought that was a most interesting idea. And if you're going to redistrict, are you going to redistrict any of the other districts? Or are you going to leave them all the same? That is a question that is out there. Let's see if I can find that article that I was talking about so much. But, you know, should we get into doing this type of thing on a regular basis? Or just saying, well, we don't have to wait for the census. For years, we had to wait for the census to do this type of thing. Now, however, we've decided that we can do this at any time that we like. I don't know. They say that it would give us better coverage and would make sure that the Republicans are in charge because they got the majority of the votes. That's the 6th district, right? The South Carolina 6th district congressional seat. So as they look at this, Representative John McCravey has said he will support and co-sponsor any legislation to redraw South Carolina's 6th district congressional seat. This district has been intentionally drawn to be a Democratic safe haven for way too long. In recent decisions, the Supreme Court has gradually removed South Carolina from the most of the strictures of the Voting Rights Act and has largely left the drawing of boundaries up to the state. Since the states have given Republicans supermajorities in both the South Carolina State House and Senate, it's time for our legislature to redraw District 6 and make all South Carolina congressional seats fair and competitive. If our voters change the seat to Republicans, so be it. Speaker Mike Johnson is operating with a slim majority and needs all the help he can get in Congress. Despite the discouraging early statements from certain House and Senate members, I truly believe grassroots Republicans will rally behind this common sense issue and change the narrative coming from our own leadership. So, It then goes on and talks about why they won't do this. Ralph Norman, who is leaving Congress and running for the governor. Now, you must understand, Ralph Norman is in jeopardy if he doesn't win the governorship. He would have to give up his seat. Of course, he could, somewhere along the line, if he decides that his campaign doesn't have the fire to do it, I guess he could say, I'm just going to run. Just kidding. But he wants South Carolina, Ralph Norman wants South Carolina to join the redistricting fight that has started in Texas. So what do you think about this? What do you think? I think that I think it probably will happen, don't you? Don't you think it will happen? I think it will. I think they will go ahead with this. But they're saying that there's a lot of reasons why it won't keep going. And I just thought we might talk a little bit about this. If you have any interest in this one, 864-229-7984, 864-229-7984. So do you think there is any... Oh, no, I can't answer that right now. Do you think there is any reason that this will continue? John McCravey says that he would sponsor legislation. This is an article from another news source saying that his idea will not be well received in the GOP-controlled state house. South Carolina already has a congressional map that has produced 6 Republicans to 1 Democrat to split the U.S. delegation, despite President's Day Donald Trump only carrying 58% of South Carolina in 2024. The lone Democrat, U.S. Representative Jim Clyburn, who represents a minority district that stretches from the Charleston area in the Low Country to the Midlands. All other districts are reliably Republican, where the winners for the biennial elections are traditionally decided in the June primaries. Norman says the states where Republicans hold supermajorities in both legislative chambers should redraw the districts to make them slightly more competitive in order to achieve a 7-0 map and oust Clyburn. I have no doubt Republicans can be successful in every part of our state, Norman said in a statement that will help increase Republican control of Congress and help President Donald Trump pass his agenda. Every vote counts towards a conservative speaker, Mike Johnson, rather than a liberal speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. Texas was called upon. That's 5 seats there. That's 5 seats. Here in South Carolina, that's 1 seat. But a move in South Carolina will require the state legislature to make it a priority. Would South Carolina make it a priority? But when asked about the chances lawmakers would even consider a middle-decade redistricting, House Majority Leader Davey Hyatt said, "Is there anything less than 0?" Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Luke Rankin, whose committee oversaw redistricting, said there's no appetite to take up redistricting now. It's a gubernatorial season. It's not a redistricting season, said Rankin, a Horry County Republican. All right. Luke Rankin. All right. The last time Democrat. So anyways, that's some of the news that's out there. I thought it was interesting. I think it's interesting that John McCravey has said yes, they would take it up and he would sponsor the bill. But I think it's something that is a lot more complicated than just taking it up. And would it get through the House and the Senate? It should. It should. Why wouldn't it is the question. But it's interesting that there is conversation that this is not going to happen. So just thought I'd bring that up. I thought to me, that's an interesting one. Of course, this weekend was the Silver Elephant down there in Colombia. And I've known Lindsey Graham for a long time. I found it interesting. Now, I didn't go to this event, but I found it interesting that Lindsey Graham was speaking, and he used his old telephone in the pocket trick to wow the audience. I'm just going to say it that way. Having been to many Lindsey Graham get-togethers, he seems to always have his telephone in the pocket. He always seems to have somebody call it, and then he has to click it off and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, folks, that was just the president calling." Well, Saturday night, he said, "Oh, it's the president." I guess he put it on speakerphone, and Donald J. Trump had a few words to say to the group Saturday night, and that was at the Silver Elephant, which is a big fundraising dinner down there in Colombia. Evidently, they had a good time with that one, and Lindsey Graham can always pull a phone out of his pocket and have somebody on the line when he needs some help. That's my, and plus he's trying to show that he and President Trump are tight. Supposedly they'd played golf. Trey Gowdy, and the president had played golf earlier in the day. And that's kind of funny, but it's kind of also what I say, classic Lindsey Graham, using the old telephone in the pocket to get the attention. Now, Glenn Youngkin, great speaker, was there Saturday night as the keynote speaker. I did understand it was a late night. They had a lot of people speaking and everything, but Glenn Youngkin delivered a really great speech talking about invoking the spirit of South Carolina Revolutionary War hero in his keynote speech. So, I think that things are moving in the right direction as far as getting our country back on track. I hate to hear that we need to keep fighting all the time. I'll just say the truth. I just would love for us to be able to get along, to go along, and people just try to make a difference here. But I guess we will see how it goes and see what happens. But that was the funny note about the Silver Elephant. And he put it up to the microphone, and the president spoke. And President, I will never forget your great state. South Carolina is a special date, and you've made it that way, Trump told nearly 770 Republicans in attention. Graham never mentioned his own campaign for a fifth term. Instead, he let Trump do the talking about his full endorsement of South Carolina senior senator. He's a great guy. Every time I needed him, he was there for me. So I just won't forget it, Trump said on the call, earning the whoops from the crowd. Isn't that interesting? I find this so interesting. Everybody loves to hate Lindsey Graham, right? And then you get the president calling in. It's just like, all right, let's do it. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? But what can I say? Lindsey Graham has a lot of power. Lindsey Graham has, I think the biggest thing Lindsey Graham needs to get back to is recognizing that he represents South Carolina. Do I think that it's going to be a tough haul for anybody to defeat Lindsey Graham? I think as long as Lindsey Graham runs for that seat is going to be his, unless he turns Trump against him, which doesn't look like it's going to happen right now. So that's part of that right now. You may hate Lindsey Graham, but you know what? He's so well connected, and when it comes down to doing something that brings home the bacon for South Carolina, that supports South Carolina and making sure that South Carolina is well taken care of, Lindsey Graham has that ear of the president, and that is gold at this point. Now, when Biden was in office, the point was that he could stay the line against Biden, although a lot of people don't like his war hawk approach. But as long as Trump is in office, and truthfully, how much longer is Lindsey Graham going to run? Would this be his last time running? Will he keep on, or will he give it up? But when he gives it up, if he gives it up, one thing is for sure, it will take quite a bit to get somebody to get the power and the influence that Lindsey Graham has right now in the Senate. So, as you look at other people potentially to run for office, do you also have to weigh that? I say yes. I'm Ann Eller. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. If you think I'm off base on something, let me know. 864-229-7984. Well, I want to switch now to something a little bit more local. Dairy Queen raised over $2,000 during their Miracle Network Day on July 31st. I've talked to Saif. He said he is so grateful for everybody that came out and had blizzards or multiple blizzards. And next year, he said, bigger and better. He said he's already planning it for next year. The mayor's dunk raised over $125 just for dunking the mayor. I contributed some money to that, Brandon, just FYI, just for the opportunity to dunk the mayor, I will tell you a funny story about that. I wasn't going to try to throw a ball and have live video and everything. So I opted just for the $10 and the automatic dunk if the mayor, if you wanted that, you didn't want to have to try to hit the bullseye area. So I walked over there and I said, okay, I'm just going to dunk him. Get ready, Brandon, it's coming. I went to hit it and the thing was in the lock position and he didn't get dunked. So I said, but then they unlocked it and he got dunked. So funny story that, that thing can be locked or unlocked, which I thought was probably interesting. I didn't know that, did you? But anyways, he raised $125. And as I've said many times on this show when talking about this, he probably had the best of it. It was a hot day and he was in the dunk tank and sitting there in his swim tanks. Not a bad place to be. So over $2,000. Did hear that in Georgia, the one that raised the most from the Dairy Queen Miracle Day is they raised $180,000. Talk about something huge. That was huge. And that was in Georgia. So I don't know whether that would have gone to Prisma or whether that would go to the Children's Hospital. Kind of depends on their location. I expect it probably went to Georgia. But talk about something huge. That was huge. $180,000. I can't even imagine how you could have enough product on hand to sell that many blizzards. But $180,000 was the top contender, and that was in Georgia. All right, and then I just have a couple of fun stories that I wanted to talk about. And one of them is, let's see if I can go back to this story right here. I want to talk about, nope, I guess I need to go back one more. Oh, over here. Okay, I need to go back right here. Wanted to talk about the story about Ghislaine Maxwell will be barred from service puppy training at the lax new lockup over her child sex abuse record. How about this? I find this story amazing. But I understand it. But she is going to be barred. I mean, she can play golf, she can request all these kind of things, but she will not be able to train a puppy. She will not because of her sex conviction. It says, God, I just would like this thing to go away. Convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell will be barred from training service dogs at the Lush, Texas prison camp she was transferred to last week. The cushy prison, named Club Fed, offers several amenities and rehabilitation programs for inmates, including service dog training courses. But Maxwell will be able to participate in the pup sessions due to her history of sexual abuse towards minors. We do not allow anyone whose crimes involves abuse towards minors or animals, including any crime of a sexual nature, said the CEO of Canine Companions, which runs the prison program. So any type of abuse towards minors or animals puts you outside the realm of being able to train a puppy. This is a hard policy, so she will not be able to participate in the program. The restrictions are currently in place to protect vulnerable puppies from any abuse. These crimes against the vulnerable, and you're putting them with a puppy who is vulnerable. The Canine Companions Prison Puppy Raising Program is in place for qualifying inmates to provide a positive impact on incarcerated individuals during weekly training sessions in several facilities across the country. So even though she's been transferred there, she will not be able to do that. It'll be interesting to see where this case goes. Are they going to undo the sealed documents? This is a big deal that's still going on. It says the notorious madam, who is serving 20 years for helping Epstein groom and abuse underage girls, is housed in a prison with primarily nonviolent inmates who are allowed to roam the grounds with limited or no perimeter fencing. Wow. The lockup also offers a full gym, yoga classes, music programs, and social and cultural events. God. Maxwell will also be allowed to request and buy materials for hobbies such as painting and crocheting. No reason was given for the move, but it comes days after she met with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche twice. She also has made it quite known that she's opposed to the Justice Department's bid to unseal grand jury transcripts from her case after trying and failing to review the records herself. So that's a little story about that. But isn't it nice that you have a prison where you can just order in what you want? I wonder if you can order special meals or exactly how far they take it at Club Fed there in Texas. But and they've got music and cultural events. Well, I guess you need a prison to accommodate all different types of people, right? So why would you have the same type of prison for somebody that, I guess I'll say it this way, maybe that's a scumbag, the lowest of lowest people, right, against those that have had more culture and refined things. Interesting, isn't it? But that's what your government tax dollars are paying for. Yep, that's what your tax dollars are paying for, folks. All right, other things in the news. I'll see if I can find this story. I would love to find you this story. Pacifiers for adults. Have you heard about this? That this is something that is helping people cope. Have you heard about this? I was a little shocked to hear about it. Let's see, is it here? I don't know. Let me see if I can find this story. I was looking at this, and pacifiers for adults. Can you believe that, yes, stressed adults rely on pacifiers to soothe themselves? I feel a sense of safety from childhood. Can you imagine walking into an office scene and seeing some guy sitting there with a pacifier in his mouth and you say, I've got a problem and I need to talk about this? Or maybe you're going to see him for a job interview and you're looking at this guy sitting there with a pacifier in his mouth and you wonder, do you really want to work for this organization that says, when the going gets tough, the tough pop in a pacifier? That's a surprising stress-busting move thousands of young adults in China are making, swapping melatonin and meditation for an adult-sized binky. Once a niche quirk, silicone soothers are supposedly now big business on the Chinese e-commerce giants, and they're very budget-friendly. They're sold as sleep aids, stress relievers, even smoking cessation tools, and shoppers are gobbling them up. And the fans aren't shy about why. When I'm under pressure at work, I feel a sense of safety from childhood, one Chinese buyer said at the reported by the outlet. But not everyone's clapping for the comeback kid in the baby aisle. The doctor cautioned that prolonged use can mess with your bite, strain your jaw, and even disrupt sleep. They aren't staying in China. TikTok is sucking it up literally with videos of American adults pacifying themselves in traffic, at work, or in the throes of burnout. Another double down, just get an adult pacifier. I use one and the ADHD tip is working for me. Others admitted we got to do what we got to do to keep focused. Overbite or not getting stuff we need to get done. I'm so ashamed. I've been addicted for 23 years of my entire life. Some naysayers chimed in with alternatives. If you want something in your mouth, chew gum. Try a lollipop instead of a pacifier. I mean, I find this totally unbelievable. What if you walked into somebody's office? You walked into somebody's office and they didn't have it in their mouth, but it was sitting there on their desk. They had a pacifier sitting there on their desk. If I hadn't read this article, I would say, oh, did you bring your child to work today, right? Oh, no, that's my pacifier. I need one, too. So this is some members of Gen Z are flocking to Adulting 101 crash courses, desperate to learn how to change a tire without FaceTiming their dads, how to read an electric bill without crying, or how to fold a fitted sheet without having an existential crisis. And now we have pacifiers for those that can't cope with any of these things. What do you think about that? 864-229-7984. Well, let's see what we got. We got a couple of comments coming in here this morning. I find this amazing. Who is anybody on a pacifier here in Greenwood? That's what I want to know. You don't have to tell me your name. You can just send me, I'm using the pacifier and like it, or, oh my God, how disgusting. You know, and then, of course, those, I don't know. Now, do you think a pacifier is supposed to be passive to make you passive? It works for little kids, I guess. Why not for adults? But I find this amazing that as an adult, you have a problem dealing with it, so you're using a pacifier. In closing, I just want to say I had a most interesting conversation, and we will talk more about this another day. It goes back to my whole theme about the sense of community that we had when you and I were growing up, how TV and our community made a difference in our life. I was talking to a young person last night. I believe she's in her mid-20s, under 30, I do believe. I'm not sure what age group you call that, but she was really stressed out. She's really stressed out about life and all the things that are happening, taking care of her mom and child and trying to make sure that nobody gets hurt in her family. You know, I mean, she's just really stressed out. And she was telling me how she really would like to go back to the days when you could listen to the radio and you could call in and suggest a song, and then they played it for you, and it was so cool on the radio. And she asked me if I knew of any stations that were doing that. And I said, well, there aren't many anymore. There aren't many. And she goes, I know there's ones on the internet, but it's just not the same as listening to your local radio station. And I said, radio was the original social media. But then as we talked more, and she said, I just would think that would be so cool. And she goes, it's so retro to be into crocheting and all these type of things. And I just looked at her, I was like, wow. And she goes, when I was growing up, the internet was young, and I was part of a group, a social group. And she goes, but the internet was slower. It wasn't so fast. And so we just talked about stuff. And it was people of all ages, even though she was a young person. And she goes, I just miss that sense of community. I thought that was most interesting, because it went right along with our sense of talking about watching an episode once a week and this type of thing. But I also think when we talk about that, then she was talking to me about her attention span. She used to have an attention span. Now, this is a young person. And now she finds that she can't sit there and watch a whole episode of something. If she doesn't like what's happening in that episode, she skips ahead to the next one. Or she goes and Googles it and finds out or sometimes she goes and watches the last episode. And then if she's really interested, she'll go back and look at the development. But she catches herself every once in a while saying, well, why did that story go the way it went? She missed that because she was so intent on flying through it to get to the end to see, like, come on, what's it about? But she says it's her brain that just cannot focus long term. Anybody else having that issue in today's world? I actually think that some of that, have you ever noticed if you're on Facebook or any of these other social media sites, how you have all these pop-ups and you're very happy dealing what you're dealing with, you're flipping through, you're scrolling, then you see this, then you see that, and that takes you here, and all of a sudden you wonder, what was I there looking for, or was I just doing mindless scrolling? Do you find yourself limiting yourself to X amount of scrolling time? I know some people are dealing with it that way. But this is a crisis. This is a crisis in our country. And what is happening to our young people is the ability to focus is disappearing. So not having phones in the school system, I think, is a terrific thing. It gets them thinking and looking and being involved in the moment rather than being involved in the phone. But I just couldn't believe that this was the conversation I was having last night about community, about radio, when you used to be able to call up and have a song played on the radio and how cool that would be. But this retro feeling of getting back to some real sense of a real community as opposed to an online community. I've got more on that story, but I'm going to leave that there for today. I'm Ann Eller. Tomorrow afternoon, we've got a great show coming up. Fly-by bicycles, the electric bicycle. People are going to be here tomorrow afternoon. We're going to be talking to them about the good things, the bad things, and what conditions there are for riding electric bicycles here in Greenwood, South Carolina. Hey, you know what? I'm Ann Eller. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood, and we are looking forward to another day. It's going to be kind of rainy, so just be prepared. Get all those jobs done inside, and if you're at work, God bless you. Thank you for working today. That is going to do it for me. I hope you have a great day right here in Greenwood, South Carolina. Bye-bye, everybody. Take it away on WCRS Radio.